What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck, joined by my guys, Big Dave, BAWL Sports, Will the Goat Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb, and sitting in for Joey today in the producer's chair, it's our dear friend, Greg Braggs! What's up, buddy?
Bragg, so many things to discuss with you. So many.
First and foremost, how was your nap?
It was quite lovely.
Braggs has been here. What did you guys have a noon bear show today?
Yes.
So you've had a long day.
Yeah.
You need a little nappy.
I woke up early to work out. So I've been up all day. Yeah. A little humble brag. Humble brag there. So yeah, I took a little nap and dreaming of cutting down the nets.
Oh, and also congratulations.
Go ahead.
The wonderful Purdue Boilermakers.
Thank you.
Please notice that I was the one who told you they were going to the Final Four. Please
I appreciate that. I do remember that.
I did say
I was one of several people who assumed that they would get upset by the 16 seed because
it's not very nice
tracks.
of
you. But I will now publicly apologize for making that joke, but I was not the only person to make that joke. And it wasn't a joke. It was just a guess based on history and fact.
I would apologize to you, but everyone did it. But I still was not wrong because this makes
I'm surprised. I am surprised that they made their way to the Final Four, but good for them.
Yes, and congratulations, Brad. How excited are you, man?
I am so excited. It's so wonderful.
Wait, and they're playing who?
When is tip-off of their game?
Yeah.
NC State at 5 o'clock Central.
Oh, you guys got a shot.
I will be in Arizona, so it's a 3 o'clock game for one Greg Braggs.
You're going.
Okay,
I'm going.
Good for you, man.
We're going.
Well, and now, that's the lowest remaining seed is their opponent, right?
That's right.
11,
yes,
NC State.
The double-digit seed joke is still alive and well for everyone. People are still sharpening their knives. But don't you worry.
I'll just leave that in my back pocket.
Dude, yeah, it's in the back pocket.
I said the Final Four, so I'm leaving it alone there, bro.
This is where
I get off the train.
Get off?
Yeah. I knew they'd get to the Final Four. I'm just going to leave everything else up to the talent that they have.
Leave it to fate.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it is, man.
Well, hey, maybe Zach Edey will be a Chicago Bull next year.
We were just talking about that. That might be the case. Don't you owe us a song, though, sir. You promised some singing with
another slow-footed big who can't shoot. Here. Yeah, that's what the Bulls need.
Did you want to get into the song now, or did you guys
want to save it for later?
You want to save it for later?
Do you want to save it for later?
Well, I mean, we could. Let me wake up a little.
All right, take your time, man. Take your time, man. We'll actually do a show while you do that.
Someone get Braggs a glass of warm milk.
That's it. just in a little beard. Put him over your shoulder.
Just put that bird on the keyboard that Homer uses, when he's working from home. We got it from here, Braggs.
Hey, Julia.
What's up, Julia? Okay, so Bulls' first of 3 consecutive off days between their Monday and Friday games this week. They have the Knicks on deck Friday, but in the meantime, we are here. Oh, actually, no, this is their second of 3 days off. They were off yesterday as well. Wanted to dive a bit further into some of their numbers on the defensive end. We railed against them for losing the three-point battle by a wide margin again in their loss to the Hawks on Monday. That key loss, as the Hawks have the Pistons on deck tonight, and if they win against the Pistons, are now in a record tie with the Bulls. But this problem the Bulls have been facing all season long, and actually beyond all season long, but for the past few seasons, their disparity from the three-point line that stems not just from their own inability to take and make a respectable amount of threes, but giving up so many on the defensive end.
A lot.
A lot. Will, you had some great stats and notes about this in your game breakdown after that loss to the Hawks. In case you missed it, just wanted to share with y'all some of those numbers. So this stretch of 5 games that we talked about, loss to the Wizards, win over the Pacers, loss to the Nets, win over the Wolves, loss to the Hawks. If you want to throw up that snippet, Braggs. Basically, Will, you just look, here's the math. It tracks when the Bulls shoot as well or better than their opponents behind the three-point line, they tend to win, or at least have a just above winning record. When they don't, they lose, and they lose big. Just some of those examples. In their loss to the Wizards, they both teams shot inefficiently to the tune of 28.5%, but the Wizards did it on a higher volume, and the Wizards win. The Bulls shoot the lights out against the Pacers. When the Pacers have a cold shooting night, Bulls win. The Nets, hilarious, made 25 threes on 44 attempts, and they smoked the Bulls. The Bulls shoot the lights out again in their win over the Timberwolves, who shot below 30%, while the Bulls shot nearly 60 on their low volume. And then in the loss to the Hawks on Monday, Hawks drill 19 of 40 compared to the Bulls 7 of 28. And then, Will, you took it a step further to say, in all of their games this season, when the Bulls win, they shoot 38.5% from three, and their opponents shoot just 32.8%. In games the Bulls lose this season, they shoot just shy of 34%, and their opponents shoot 40. Will, how maddening was it to look at those numbers?
I mean, not maddening so much as like, you know, a little bit like enlightening, I guess, because, you know, the Bulls have built this. Okay, zoom out a little bit. You have this roster that you have sort of a limited defensive center, and typically your center is your defensive anchor.
Sure.
If you want to have a switchable defense, you have to have a switchable center. If you want to have a rim protector and take away the rim that way, you got to have somebody who can block shots. If you want to have a stretch five, like so much of the way that your roster is built is dependent on what skill set your five has. And so when you've got a guy like Vooch, who obviously is struggling from three and plays limited defensively, that just limits what you can do. And so, you know, they built this system to try to insulate him and protect him so that he doesn't end up on an island against guards having to switch and contain against Halliburton or DeJounte Murray or whoever. They get over screens quickly. They get him up to the level of the screen to try to protect against drives, and then they try to reset and scramble out shooters.
Okay.
So that's their system. And the problem with that is, like, if you don't do a good job of executing, you're going to give up driving lanes. And since now you have your big away from the rim, you're going to give up layups. And if you slide over and help, you're going to give up threes. And the Bulls do that at a very high rate. They give up more threes than any other team in the league. They are 29th in opponent rate of corner 3 points attempt and 29th in above the break 3-pointer attempt. So what they want to do is contest those shots. They'd rather take away the rim than the three. But what happens is when you give up so many threes and you aren't a 3-point shooting team yourself, there's going to be games where it's just really lopsided. And they have done a really good job of trying to offset that by getting to the free throw line. We've talked about offensive rebounding, basically like trying to hit on the four factors to offset the 3-point discrepancy.
Right.
And so they do that at a high level. When they can keep the game close in terms of 3-point distribution, then they're probably going to win.
Yeah.
But if they're having off night shooting and they're giving up a lot of threes, it's just like impossible. And so when we talk about margin for error, that's where it is.
Yeah.
For a team that does not shoot the ball well, that does not give themselves a chance to win on any given night based on their shooting, you would think that they would understand that defensively. You know, and we've talked about it with Billy a bunch of times, and he's like, well, look, I mean, if you want to sell out to take away 3-point line, then you're going to give up layups and free throws. We don't want to do that either. So there just doesn't seem to be a lot of good options for this team. But, I mean, on nights where they execute and they make shots, it looks good. On nights where they don't, it doesn't. And this year, more than last year for sure, the defense has not executed well, and that's resulted in a high number of threes going in for the opponent.
And I like how you pointed out in your article, hey, this is definitely the same defense they were running last year when they were a top 5 defense. Difference is teams were shooting, I think, 30% from three last year, where it's up to 42.
So that's the amount of total threes that they give up. So last year, basically 33 out of 100 shots coming against the Bulls were threes. This year, over 40. So again, you're making that margin even smaller, where you have to now offset that at an even higher rate with the free throws and the offensive rebounding and the turnovers and the mid-range shooting. And it's just a really tight rope that they're walking on a nightly basis.
So I think that's my question is I'm watching teams change, you know, kind of what they're doing, you know what I'm saying, to combat the Bulls defense. That was a top 5 defense. Why haven't the Bulls changed, you know, what they're doing if they're watching teams say, well, we see what you guys are trying to do. We're going to just shoot a higher volume of threes now because we'll be more open to do that. How come the Bulls haven't caught up into that kind of philosophy of just changing and understanding, well, teams are attacking us differently, we need to change something?
I mean, it's a really good question, and I mean, I don't know the answer. All we know is that they have not, and it's not to say that they haven't like made adjustments. I think that narrative gets a little bit blown out of proportion, that like Billy's just out here watching things collapse around him and not doing anything. I think they're doing some stuff, but they want to rely on their principles. They don't want to be a system that is like one night doing one thing and then has to completely switch their scheme to do another. That's asking a lot of the players to adjust on the fly and be able to pick new things up and adjust based on who they're playing every night. Not to say they can't do that. It's just a difficult way to live. And so I think they feel like they've seen this thing be successful last year. And if they execute it at a high level, then they can be successful again this year. But it just has not worked out that way. Even in terms of the process of giving up more threes, of allowing more corner threes, of, just giving up the rim a little bit more, like the execution hasn't been there to where they're giving themselves the best chance possible. And I think that's where things look a little bit different. You're also talking about a team that is, stretching their best players really thin with the amount of minutes that they're playing. They're asking them to execute for 40 minutes a game for Kobe and Io and DeMar. That's a tough ask to execute defensively. And you've really got like one elite defender, and then you've got like Io, who I think does some stuff really well on that end, has struggled in other areas, but it's just asking a lot of basically having your defensive anchor be a guard who has to guard, Zion one night, Giannis the next night, Steph Curry the night after that. It's just tough when you've got like one defensive system player and that player is on the perimeter. It's a really tough ask.
Speaking of what the Bulls could or might do to try and change this up and how Billy feels about it, Billy did lend some interesting thoughts on this after their loss to the Hawks the other night. Some of those quotes were in your column, Will, and we can touch on those in a little bit because I thought there were some interesting words there. But before we move to Billy and what he thinks about all this, just to kind of hammer home a bit more this defensive drop-off. And yes, the 3 points, the 3-point allowance that the Bulls are giving up, obviously a part of that. And that figure of 30% of their opponent's shots coming behind the arc ballooning up to 42 is certainly an eye-popping and concerning number. And the fact that lots of them are good open looks from the corner threes that opponents have been hitting pretty successfully. But you made note of also the fact that the Bulls defense, talking about like overall defensive rating, has fallen all the way to 21st, and it's basically the same roster that was a top 5 defense last year. And you can wonder what other factors other than, the Bulls are even giving up even more good looks from 3 this season compared to what they did last season. Maybe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, I think the Bulls maybe were a bit on the luckier scale as far as opponents missing good open looks as opposed to making them. Maybe that's flipped this season. They also have lost a big defensive piece in Patrick Williams. For all that Bulls fans love to complain about his offensive shortcomings season after season, you cannot deny that he is a net positive impact player on the defensive end. His absence has hurt. But is that still enough to explain collectively this huge drop? Because, when you and I were just, messaging back and forth earlier today, you pointed out that even in their stretch of games after the 5-14 start, leading into the All-Star break, where they were kind of stringing some wins together and climbing their way back to 500, even in that stretch, they only had the 15th best defense in the NBA. And before that and after that, it's been in the mid or high 20s as far as defensive ranking. So what collectively can explain that?
I think they have not done as good a job in transition this year. I'm trying to pull up those numbers real quick here because I don't want to speak out of turn, but they've really emphasized the offensive glass this year, right? When you are so if you just think about the ways that they have to win, we've talked about the 4 factors, right? It's shooting efficiency, your effective field goal percentage, your turnover percentage, how much you're turning over the ball on a per possession basis, offensive rebounding percentage, and free throw attempt rate. So last year they were not great at free throw attempt rate, but that's obviously still, you're trying to make that a big part of who you are. That's why you have DeMar getting to the line as much as you can. They don't turn the ball over ever because DeMar is really good at that. And they shoot efficiently because DeMar is really good at that. True. But what they didn't do last year is offensive rebound. This year, they turned that slider way up, and they have sent Vooch and 1 or 2 perimeter players, Drummond obviously, to the offensive glass. That leaves you a little bit vulnerable in transition going the other way. And so you give up points that way. That can lead to momentum plays where now you're taking the ball out from under the basket, you're walking it up, playing against a set defense, and now you're giving up easy points on the other end. So I think that's a big piece of it. Rebounding on the other end, the Bulls have not been as solid of a defensive rebounding team this year and at the end of last year as they were for stretches.
Yeah.
For the first part of last year, and that gives teams opportunities at putbacks, at kick-out threes, at fouls. Those are really high-value plays. So I think they've just had to do that because it's like when you're messing around with like these little margins, you've got like put up the offensive rebounding, now something comes down here, and it's like, well, you can't push this back up because then this comes down. And it's just tough to like get them to like change their style of play because the personnel doesn't account for that.
Right.
And so like you're managing within this like small margin of space to like, okay, well, let's offensive rebound him a little bit more. We'll sacrifice a little bit defensively in transition. Okay, well, that's killing you. So now we got to get back in transition, but you can't offensive rebound as much. And it's like there's just only so much Billy can work with because of the way that the roster is constructed. If there was somebody on the roster that could come off screens and shoot a lot of threes, that would give them a little bit more leeway to not have to send guys to the offensive glass so where they could get back in transition defense, or, not have to rely so much on DeMar to get good, efficient looks every single time down in the mid-range, because you have a little bit more just spacing around him and offensive creation around him. And that's just not what this roster is. And obviously injuries play a role in that. The amount of minutes that guys have had to play as a result of those injuries plays a role in that. But there's just only so much you can do if you're Billy, because if you try to tinker too much with one thing, it's going to hurt you in another place. And it's hard to make up for that without then bringing back down the thing that you were tinkering with in the first place.
Okay, let's take our first break there. We'll come back and continue this conversation, including hearing some of those words from Billy Donovan after they lost to the Hawks about the Bulls' defense and the threes that they are giving up this season. While we are sharing these words from our friends and sponsors, you know what to do. Bulls Nation, hit that like button if you're hanging out with us on YouTube or catching the replay on YouTube. We appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. Make sure you also hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. 53K and growing.
Come on, baby.
Let's go.
And
Big Dave, what do we got first today?
Factor.
Oh, food.
Meal kits.
Love it.
We got to have it.
Delicious.
We need it. It's awesome. It's wonderful. And it's good for you. Okay? Not only do you get these well-portioned meals that are delicious and tasty, but they are well-portioned meals that are delicious, tasty, and good for your soul. Awesome. I love you, Factor. Please, I love you so. And the other thing that Matt likes about it so much, it's ready in 2 minutes. Get all this stuff ready like that. 2 minutes, ready to go. Get it in. Chef-prepared meals on that table, y'all, in 2 minutes with the Factor ready-to-eat meals so you can get back to doing what you love to do this spring. Some people might be chilling. Some people, it might be just, working. Whatever it is, you get back to doing it after you have this delicious gourmet meal. You can try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon. You like filet mignon? Yes. I know it's filet mignon. I get it, but I call it filet mignon. Shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus.
Oh, I love asparagus.
Oh, my God, it's the mess. No fuss, no mess meals, y'all. Those meal kits eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat it up, savor it up. It's good stuff. Tailored to your schedule. Customize your weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much or as little as you possibly need. It also is your solution for fast premium meals without the need for cooking. So you don't have the excuse of, oh man, well, fast food, it's right there. Well, guess what? Factor, it's right there.
Hey-o.
2 minutes, good to go. You'll be fine. And they're celebrating Earth Day all month long, y'all. So look out for that Earth Moon Eats badge on the menu for our lowest carbon footprint meals. They are looking after everything. God, I love you, Factor, so much. My goodness, man. So head to factormeals.com. I had to swallow on that. CHGO Bulls 50. That's factormeals.com/CHGO Bulls 50. That'll get yourself 50% off at factormeals.com/CHGO 50. Get 50% off. Factor Meal Kit. Delicious.
Nom, nom, nom. CHGO Bulls today also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS these days. It's just you against the numbers. That's
Machine.
it. Instead of battling thousands of other players like pros, sharks, Braggses, Zach Eady's. I don't know. Maybe he's in Prize Picks. All you got to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 different player stat projections on any game that you're going to watch that night or that day, and watch the winnings roll in. March is over, but the biggest moments in college basketball, we all know, actually happen in April. Which is where we are now. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball, including those Final Four games that we got on deck, including our guy Braggs' Purdue Boilermakers.
Let's go!
Woo! Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. Those NBA playoffs begin April 20th.
Woo!
NBA play-in. Hyped!
Let's go.
April 16th, 17th, 19th.
Let's go. I'm ready for all of it.
How many times will the Bulls be there?
We'll see.
We know they will at least be there once.
We know they'll be
there. I saw
there.
that little PB lettering next to the Bulls in the standings that I was looking at today, which is the ESPN
Play-in bound?
apps. Yeah, clinched play-in berth is what it stands for. Yeah.
I don't like the PB.
I'm not a big fan either.
Yeah, the PI, I guess.
Mostly just because it means that the Bulls are in 9th and stuck there.
No, trust me, I understood.
May fall to 10th. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll make you happy. Look at the smile. Look at the smile on this darling boy.
What if they fall to 10th? Come on, Hawks!
Still going to the
Beat the
play-in.
Pistons tonight.
They still going.
You
cool
can
with me.
win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's it. You can count them on one hand. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and college hoops. Entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO with promo code CHGO for that first deposit match. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks.
Prize Picks.
Prize Picks. All right, so I wanted to talk about what Billy Donovan was saying after that loss to the Hawks, where the Bulls once again got cooked from behind the three-point line.
Yum, yum, yum.
Will, in your column, the way that you wrote it,
Flex.
talking about, hey, here's the Bulls' last 5 games. Here's the 3-point disparity in these 5 games. Do you see the trend? And then you lead in with a quote from Billy.
Yes.
And it says, quote, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Is that because you or someone on the Bulls beat posed him that question?
Thank you for asking that.
Do you see this trend, Billy?
No. It wasn't, do you
Thank
see
you
this
for
trend?
asking
It
that. I
was,
swear I was gonna answer
is it as simple as whoever makes the most threes wins the game?
Okay.
And what he was saying-
A version of that question.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I think what he was trying to say in that response is, one, on the defensive end, like what I said before, yes, if you can't take away everything from a team.
Sure.
So if you want to take something else away outside of threes, that's going to make you susceptible to something else. And what he was saying is that's going to make you susceptible to giving up layups and free throws.
Right. So, he went on to say, quote, you can take away all threes and then basically give up higher percentage shots. You can give up more shots at the basket. You can give up more free throws, end quote. How do you interpret that philosophy of his when we all know, I think at least I would hope and assume that most of us all know, that 3 is more than 2?
I mean, they're connected, right? It's not like you just you say, okay, team, you're not allowed to shoot a 2 on this. You can only shoot a 3. It's like drives a lot of times result in the kick out to 3. So what they want to do is take away those drives and make teams either pull up or get into the mid-range and shoot those. They're not doing a good job of that.
No.
Teams are shooting the least mid-range attempts against them of any team in the league.
Sure.
So they're not forcing teams into mid-range shots by taking away the rim and by taking away threes. What's happening is they're just, rotating out late and not getting enough of a contest up to where they are taking away or making those threes harder. What they don't want to do is give up corner threes in particular. Like their philosophy is, okay, we're going to help Vooch, get to the point of the screen on defense. Once they get into the paint, we'll send help and then we'll rotate. And we're going to contest hard on corner shots and try to get them to pass the ball above the break, where that's a much more difficult shot. Like corner threes versus above the break threes, not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just not getting those closeouts to where they're taking away those corners. And I think that's really been a problem. I don't know what their contest rate is this year compared to last year, but I think basically those things are connected. So the better a job they do taking away the paint in the first place, a lot of times that's also going to take away the corner 3.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal. It just they have not executed that at a high enough level.
Yeah. Okay. So I need you to explain something to me. And as far as the Bulls, I mean, we know offensively and defensively they're a guard-heavy team. Like, as far as what they do best, on offense, DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. On defense, your best defender, as you mentioned earlier, is a guard, and Alex Caruso. Doesn't it behoove them to say, okay, if guards are what we do best, maybe we should be shifting some of our defenses to what they can actually guard? And what I mean by that is taking away or at least defending the three-point shot a little bit better, more so than allowing teams or saying, I don't want to give up these layups. I don't want to give up these drives, because that's something you would say when you have a rim-protecting center sitting in the middle. And you have a center who you mentioned, if you don't have a center that's not good on switches, then you're going to be terrible at defending the three. Mm-hmm. Well, I would think Vooch is – I don't know which one you feel Vooch is worse at as far as the switches or rim protecting. You can tell me. But in my opinion, I think he would be a little better, at the switches than he would be at the rim protection, because that's where people are mad at Vooch constantly, is he's not great at that at all.
Because he's 6'10" and can't jump?
Correct, that thing. So what do you think that should happen? Like, okay, if we're a guard-heavy team that's like this and our best defender is a guard and probably our second best defender is also a guard, we should start tailoring certain things to what they actually do?
I think that's exactly what they've done. Like, I think they have built a system that obviously protects Vooch, but it also puts the guards in position to be able to do what they do well, which is scramble out to shooters. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the execution has been there to the same degree as it was last year. Because you think about the alternatives. Well, you mentioned it. You can switch. You can put Vooch on guards. And what's going to happen in those scenarios is they're going to send a high screen, get Vooch switched on to DeJounte Murray. They're going to have their shooters space the floor and pull you out of the paint. And now you've got a downhill runway to the rim where, maybe DeMar can slide over and help protect the rim from the weak side, like as the low man on the weak side, but then you give up the corner three. So that's not really a solution for this team. You can do more of a drop defensive scheme. Well, I think with a guy like Vooch who can't really deter shots at the rim, even if Caruso goes over the screen and Vooch is dropped all the way back, you're either giving up a wide open mid-range shot, which is probably preferable, but more likely you're still letting that guard just blow right by Vooch and get all the way to the rim. And now you're getting easier shots at the rim. You're putting Vooch in positions to foul, and it just doesn't really feel like a solution that can work very well there. The Bulls, I think, could play a little bit more zone, but then you give up a lot of threes that way because teams shoot over it. Yes, so there's just not a lot of good options with the personnel that the Bulls have, and that's why you want, part of the reason why I think it's not working as well is, a guy like Caruso or Ayo, they're 6'4", 6'5". That's pretty small. So when you're closing out, it's harder to cover that much ground compared to a guy like Patrick Williams size who can get out there and get a hand up. Those extra inches really matter, and just in terms of height, in terms of how much space you cover getting out there, and then with the wingspan to be able to contest, that matters a lot. And I think without bigger wings like that, it's just hard to get out to those contests. But it also takes you out of being able to do the switching thing. It takes you out of being able to, drop in pick and roll and be able to send help from the weak side in other spaces. So to me, it's like a roster construction thing. Again, it's there's just not a lot of good options with what they have. I think they've seen success with this scheme, and obviously not this year as much as last year, but I think they still buy into it and believe that can turn off a lot of offense. And we've seen it in moments. They are really good defensively in the clutch when they really lock in and they get out to contest. The problem is these guys are playing 40 minutes. They can't do that for 40 minutes a game.
But you're saying roster construction, and my question is what Dave asked. This sounds like a Vooch construction, because have you said whether or not he's good at switching or rim protecting?
He can't do either.
But he can't do either. So when you're a drop coverage
first
center,
bull show in a while, he had to get some Vooch slander in there.
Well, but seriously, because just with the Purdue stuff, because somebody asked in the chat, do you think the Bulls will draft Edey? I watch drop coverage all day, every day with Zach Edey for the last 4 years. That's what they do. Right. But guess what Zach Edey's good at doing? Rim protecting.
Right.
So they're able to build their defense around the fact that, okay, we've got the rim, check. And then everything else is built off that. But if you're running drop coverage and you can't do either, then that's not on anybody else but the person you're running drop coverage for.
Yeah, that's what I mean by roster construction. They don't have the roster to be able to play different schemes. And that's on Vooch. it's not on Vooch. It's just those are his limitations. So they had to build the defense. But like with Edey, he's not mobile or quick enough to be able to switch, so they don't do that. He's not mobile or quick enough to be able to get up to touch on screens, so they don't do that. But he is really good at protecting the rim, so they can get away with that. At the NBA level, though, I think one of the bigger problems is you can't throw the same defensive coverage at a team for 48 minutes and expect to have it work the whole game. Teams figure that stuff out, and that's why you need to have different looks. You need to have an off-speed pitch. You need to be able to change things up. And the Bulls don't have...
you see some NBA teams playing some zone for certain stretches here and there these days.
Exactly. The Bulls just don't have the personnel at the center position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And one thing I will give Billy credit for is it feels like he has to set up defensive schemes and be a protector at the same time, which is super difficult to do. Is, okay, I have to set up this scheme that these guys can play defense, but then also have to protect what they can't do well.
Yeah.
Like, that is completely difficult.
But I also,
nothing they can do well can be shown and showcased on the floor.
I also don't want to make it sound like this defensive scheme like can't work. It has worked for this team.
We know it works, right.
But like the Nuggets run this for the most part. Like Jokic is in this situation. He's similar caliber of athlete to Vooch. He's not blocking shots. He's not switching against guards on the perimeter, but they make it work. I think as much as I think it's just kind of what I said before. Like you can't just throw the same defensive scheme out there for 48 minutes and expect it to turn off the offense for that whole time. I think teams just start to figure it out.
Agreed.
And then on top of it, they just make shots at a higher level. Like teams are getting better and better at shooting threes around the Bulls. And what happens when you give up a lot of threes? You're bound to give up a lot of threes. Like the more you give up, the more they're going to make.
And lose.
I did want to dive into one more piece of what Billy said after their Hawks loss about all of this and defending and more so about what you were talking about a minute ago, Will, with weak side switching and closing out on shooters and some of those issues that they were having last night, or on Monday night rather. So we'll do that and pick that right back up on the other side of this quick break. And then with time permitting, we did get some fun questions, a variety of questions from our CHGO diehards in that Discord earlier today. So we'll get to some of those if we can.
And a brag song.
If we got time. I'm scared to know what that means. Hit that like button if you didn't do it before. Now's your chance. Do it. Hit the like. Even though Troll Joe is not here today, he still appreciates your thumbs.
Oh, does he?
Dave, who's next?
Beer.
I love it.
Don't you?
It's great with food.
Oh, my God. It does. That's what I've been told. I've been told that
all
it
I've ever
complements
wanted
food.
in life.
That's it.
Bulls wins, beer and food.
Oh, my God. What kind of awesome life is that? Good gosh. I want to live that. Don't you want to live that? Of course you do.
Come on board.
We know one way to do it is to hop up on the train, baby. On that cold filter, cold lager train for those people at Coors Light. Because whether it's your team stressing you out or it's just life in general, things can feel a little bit chaotic. But that's why Coors Light can help you find those moments to help you chill all year long. They can do that, man. You know why? Because when those mountains turn blue, you know what to do. Chug it down because it's frosty cold and it's going down. It's as cold as the Rockies. Oh, delicious. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filter, and cold package for a smoother finish. When it's time to chill, open up a Coors Light. It's mountain cold of refreshment. Crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. And not bad like the baseball team, but actually delicious.
12 runs to the Cubs. Goat was there.
Yes, he was.
It was cold.
When it's time to chill, Coors Light is the beer that we reach for. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. Coors Light. Find your chill. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Woo! Bulls, CHGO Bulls Today also brought to you by CD1 Price Cleaners. If you're looking for some laundry service, for some dry clean service, maybe you're not happy with the current one you're using, you got to check out CD1 Price Cleaners because their customers save over 30% on their dry cleaning bill by switching to CD1 Price. Other cleaners charge a different price for a lot of different garment types. Not CD1. Nope.
They wouldn't do it.
No upcharges for certain specialty items, like say, hey, I went to the Hawks game the other night and I spilled mustard on my brand new Connor Bedard sweater that I love so much. Take your Hawks jersey right there to CD1. Same price. No specialty upcharge for specialty items.
Awesome.
At CD1 Price Cleaners, they charge one low price for any garment and every garment. The same low price. That's right, even for sports jerseys.
Sounds amazing.
Also, incredibly quick turnaround. CD1 Price has your order ready for the same or next day. A lot of other cleaners these days are asking for 2 days, 3 days, even 4 days before you can come back and pick it up. They also, if you want to opt into this service, have a text alert system so you can get a little ping on your phone and know exactly when they are ready for you to swing by and pick up your cleaned, washed, dry cleaned, folded, whatever you ask them to do, did clothes. Wide variety of services, not just dry cleaning, but also wash and fold service. I love that.
Love it.
Love it. They also do blankets and comforters. They do tailoring and alterations for clothing, including, evening wear, gowns, suits, tuxes, all that jazz. They also clean leather, leather repair, and rug cleaning. If you got a stain on your rug that just won't come out, bring it to CD1 Price Cleaners. Visit chgo.cd1.com. You can find a link in the description. Again, that's chgo.cd1, that's ONE.com. Once you're there, you can pick from an in-store coupon or online pickup and delivery coupon options. CD1 Price Cleaners. Clean your stuff.
We the ones.
Okay. Wanted to dive back into this for just a bit more because Billy said something else after that loss to the Hawks that was in your column, Will, that kind of made me raise an eyebrow. Because I think you're right, Will. I think you're right, Dave, what you were saying a minute ago, as far as Billy's kind of oftentimes, and it's not just this specific example, whatever it may be, he does a good job of sort of protecting his players from criticism and also at times calling them out when they need to be called out.
Sure.
I feel like that is one thing that Billy does well as a coach.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the Hawks and all the threes they hit on Monday night, Will. And he said, you always have a battle at the point of screens, whether you're playing offensively or defensively. And he said he thought that the Hawks won more of those battles than the Bulls did on Monday night, and that's why they kept finding their open shooters who were having themselves some pretty good shooting nights. He said that's how the ball got where it needed to go. The Bulls were losing those point-of-screen battles. And he said, and this is quote, putting us in some of those rotations and some long rotations at times, but, they shot the ball exceptionally well. Give credit to the Hawks for doing that. But then he continued, you're going to get into some binds. It wasn't that. It was pulling off corners and being in the wrong positions. Not enough awareness on the backside, but he said I think they were 6 of 9, 7 of 10. I think they finished 7 of 11 or 12 from corner threes on Monday night. He said there's no way we should be giving up corner threes. That just shouldn't happen. End quote. And the one play that you pointed out and clipped the video of and put in your column was the end of the first half, I think.
Yep.
And it was their freaking new hotshot Krejci who drilled a corner three at the buzzer. It was not quite a corner three. It was right at the
elbow
break.
Extended. Yeah.
But it wasn't a failure of a weak side rotation. It was a strong side kick-out pass, and Kobe had just collapsed into the paint and left his man Krejci wide open, who at that point was already 4 of 4 from behind the arc. And I think in maybe sort of a softening the blow kind of way, that's what Billy was saying. Hey, this was not a night where it was just the Bulls getting beaten on point of attacks of screens and backdoor cut rotations, weak side rotations that were failing. That was a prime example of hey, Kobe was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it wasn't even a weak side rotation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in that play specifically, it wasn't wrong place at the wrong time. He made a mistake.
Yeah.
He came in to try to cut off the drive
was my
from
nice
one
way
pass
of saying
away.
made a mistake.
Yeah, and Billy called Kobe out on that play, and I mean, he wasn't saying we just said Kobe pulled in too much. It wasn't he was saying he was Kobe's doing great. He understood in that, immediately after that what he did. But they shot 7 of 12 from the corner in the first half, from the corner. And in the second half, they did a lot better. But they're just giving up open threes on strong side kickouts. It's not a matter of what Billy was saying is it's not a matter of them breaking down the point of the screen, getting to the rim and kicking out. It's they're taking one dribble past the screen and seeing a wide open man to their left.
Yep.
And they're just kicking it to him and shooting a three. And that's what can't happen. You don't love it, but you can live with giving up contested corner threes off drive kickouts that you've stopped the guy at the rim and forced him to spray it out, and you just can't get out there quick enough. there's going to be situations where that happens. You understand you need to execute better. It is what it is. But like the ones where you're just giving up like one pass away, strong side help, you can't do that. And it's every game multiple times. And that's just, again, the margins are too small to where you're going to be giving up a lot of threes. You're going to be giving up a lot of corner threes. You can't make matters worse by giving up those easy ones.
Yes. Oh, God, yes. On the head is what you just said right there. And I'm just, while he's talking, I'm thinking about those games that you mentioned that they lost against those teams, Washington and
Brooklyn
the Nets and Atlanta. You know, I'm just like, yeah, these are all teams. This is what they do. So going into the game, you know, this is really what they do. They shoot threes. Like, that's who they are. That's their identity. That's not anything that's changed or brand new. So going into those settings, knowing exactly who they are, but still like, no, we're not going to –
but it's
we're
also
still going to kind of give you that shot and kind of allow you to still do what you do best and not try to so much take it away from you. And, of course, some of those plays, as you pointed out and mentioned, guys are just out of position on. Yeah. I get that. That's understandable. But when you go in with your scheme already set up as to knowing exactly what you want to do and it's not to take away what the team does best, there's a disconnect there, man, in my opinion.
Yeah, and, like, I think against teams like there aren't many teams like the Celtics in today's NBA where they just have like multiple guys that can break you down and shoot over you.
Yeah.
Like in isolation situations, like you run into the Clippers, yeah, they're going to just get shots up one-on-one.
Sure.
You run into the Celtics, they're going to just beat you one-on-one. Then you have to send a little bit more help and you have to scramble and you have to be in better positions. But like for the most part, when you're playing a Hawks team, when you're playing, you know, a Pacers team or the Cavs, like for the most part, these teams are not going to just like have multiple guys. Maybe they have one guy, but they're not going to just be breaking guys down left and right and shooting over you in the perimeter. So they are looking to drive. They are looking to spray out. But on those drives, like you can't help one pass away. You have to have better execution and understand where your help's going to be so that you're not out of place. And yeah, I mean, 75 games into the year, there's still a lot of these breakdowns. And like Zach Lowe wrote about this several months ago now, where like it seems like the Bulls just don't really know who is supposed to help from where. And like that kind of stuff is, I don't know.
Coaching.
I didn't really buy it in full, but like they are still, I mean, that's happening a lot. Like it really is.
It is.
And yeah, I mean, I have to think that if Billy is sitting there and explaining that to the media, he has also done that with the players.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to like say Billy has not explained this because I know they know that, but it's an execution thing. There is a disconnect there because it's still happening.
Yeah.
Par Junior Sports in the comments said, rolling out 4 guards with a big like Vooch is so crazy. Torrey Craig and Pat are cool, but they can't be the only 2 wings on this roster. Well, guess what? They are.
Construction is what Will was talking about
exactly.
right here. Absolutely right.
Brian saying, I'm looking forward to a better next season. Alex saying, I'm looking forward to the playoffs.
Me and you too, Alex.
Popcorn emoji. Oh, you mean just like watching the NBA playoffs as an NBA fan?
Yeah.
Bulls ain't going to beat her. But I am very much looking forward to watching the NBA playoffs. I love the NBA playoffs. You know why? Because my Bull stress melts away, and I just watch good basketball.
Ooh, Bulls versus Boston would be hilarious.
I told you.
Hilarious.
I'm taking my vacation days if the Bulls go to a playoff series against Boston.
If the Bulls
I will
win
not be
and go
here
to the playoffs.
for that exhibition in pointlessness.
Oh, my gosh.
Futility.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Pass.
See my man Kobe drop 30 on them cats.
Hard pass.
I would love it so. I would love it so.
Bless Alex for thinking this season is still interesting. From a Bulls perspective, no. But from an East and West, playoff matchups perspective, absolutely. Sure. There's a lot of fascinating stuff going. I'm like, dude, the number 1 seed in the West is still completely undecided.
Yeah.
It's 3 teams, one of whom I think is a part of the ESPN doubleheader tonight. OKC. Mm-hmm. OKC, Minnesota, Denver, all within a half game of each other at the top of the West. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so with our remaining time, we got some fun questions from our CHGO diehards in that diehard Discord. One of the many reasons you should sign up to be a CHGO diehard if you aren't already, not to mention the great GOAT 101 newsletter, most recently talking about the Bulls' lack of efficiency with their post-up offense. That was great stuff. And then, of course, the discounts to all of our fun parties and events, including... Shout out to our guy Braggs and our CHGO Bears crew.
Hey.
Draft party right around the corner.
Let's go!
Thursday night and Friday night. Space is already running out. Very tight. You guys sell out yet, Braggs? Do you know?
The Thursday night is getting packed.
Caleb Williams night.
Tickets are limited for Caleb Williams night, but then the Caleb Williams after party Friday, which is the second and third round.
Yes.
So 2 times the party.
2 times the
for
party.
one of the best prospects to ever come to the Chicago Bears.
Bears.
We will be
Bears.
at Joe's on Weed Street.
Yeah.
Just a party
presented by
animal.
Circus Sports and
Party
Casa
animal.
Azul. Go to
Who gonna be there, Brad?
allchgo.com/events. Get
Any
your
special
tickets.
guests, Braggs?
Are you guys coming?
I think I'm gonna
Maybe.
come Thursday, maybe Friday. I gotta see the hype.
Not
from
maybe
Bull State
Friday.
Caleb.
Come out Friday. Dalton and the Sheriffs is the after party. Second and third round. Corey Wooten's going to be there both nights.
Woot!
Come on out. Friday
man,
night,
Woot.
nobody works the next day. Nobody's
That's
working,
true.
so we can get drunk all night.
Do the Bulls have a game that Saturday? We might be working the next
That's
day.
a great point. That's a great point, sir.
Listen,
It'll be the first round of the playoffs if it is.
So
Anything,
they
right?
might.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that's too far into April. Hopefully we'll be done by then.
We might.
April 26th and 27th? Oh, yeah, Bulls are
There's a
Bulls season's gonna be done by then.
possibility.
22
There
days
is.
away. So, like
I
you
told no
said,
lie.
if you become a diehard, you get a discount on that event.
There you go.
Get a free shirt, a Kobe shirt.
Hey.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero, but yes. He's right. No, he's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. Sub-Zero shirt, sir.
Sub-Zero. That's
Sub-Zero.
what I said.
That's it.
That's what I said.
We
What
heard
you
you loud
said.
and clear.
So, yes, all of those wonderful reasons to become a CHGO diehard if you aren't already. And legit, it costs you pennies a day. If you take our annual membership, stretch it out, every day of being a Chicago sports fan, I mean, the other things that we all spend money on,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer.
More than pennies a day.
All right, shout out to Brooms kicking us off from the Diehard Discord.
Okay.
We don't really have to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but I just thought it was funny, so I'm going to read it.
Okay.
Will Jerry ever let us rest? Will he ever unplug us from his money-making matrix? Or at least, ... can we get the campfire milkshake at the United Center for the play-in game? Well, first things first, Brooms. They got to hold off the Hawks to get a home play-in game. Mm-hmm. And as we mentioned, Hawks playing the Pistons tonight, they could pull into a tie with the Bulls. As you always like to point out, Will, the Bulls do have the tiebreaker over Atlanta via their regular season sweep of the Hawks. Or no, their 2-1 series win over the Hawks. But even still. But I have kept hearing all about this new campfire milkshake at Guaranteed Rate Field.
Yes. Yes.
It is making more waves on social media in the world of sports than any actual White Sox players or any success the White Sox have had thus far, which is none.
Well, no, it's
Actually,
one because they
did get
won yesterday.
They did get a W.
Back up off my team, son.
They did get a W.
Back up off them.
Well,
Again, none of the hate is necessary. You don't even watch them or deal with them.
What about
The
their
extra
signing?
hate ain't
What about their
necessary.
signing? Is there
It's
some
not
hate necessary for that?
dog. It's no hate.
I'm just going to say, I watched Herb and Sean go off.
Oh, yeah, the signing was dumb as hell. Yes, that was stupid and ridiculous and just dumb as hell. Absolutely right. But leave that here. let the fam talk that.
Okay.
We got that. We got that covered, man.
Okay.
Make sure you're checking out CHGO White Sox, like I said, with Herb and Sean. Awesome show, man. They're breaking everything down and reading everything our guy Vinny Duber is putting out on that team as well. Definitely.
Brave souls, those White Sox
Yes.
crew.
Yes. And
It's
to sit in that weather.
It's twice as many games as the Bulls play, and they are in an even darker timeline.
He can't help himself. Just leave-
I'm
leave
just
it
no.
be.
I'm saying I feel for those Chicago sports fans who are
do
both Bulls and Hawks fans because it's misery. I mean, Bulls and Sox fans. I mean,
You
yes,
do.
I do.
I don't.
What do you
believe
mean?
A second of what you're saying.
I feel awful
Not
for them
one.
because I am trapped in the Jerry Reinsdorf prison just like they are.
It's trapped
Just
in
like
the
Brooms
prison.
is saying.
Man-made prisons.
Yeah.
Seinfeld.
Or a prison that's a matrix, like Broom said. I don't care about this campfire milkshake. I mean, I enjoy the occasional milkshake.
Yeah, you're not a big sweets guy anyway.
I
so,
am not.
Yeah, it looks
Bacon
delicious.
milkshake.
Bacon
Now
milkshakes
that
exist.
I can get behind.
They do exist.
They sure do.
exist.
They sure
absolutely
do.
right. Brad, you had a
Bacon.
bacon milkshake?
No, I haven't, but that milkshake at Comiskey is looking good.
It does look good.
Have you
man.
tried it?
No.
No.
No, it does look
No.
good.
Looks great.
I'm good enough to.
It's kind of an odd thing to have at a ball game.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing to have at a baseball game because it's a lot, but
Yeah.
like and I'm drinking normally.
Well,
So
that's
like,
why you
you
can't put it
drink a
together.
bunch of whiskey and then
Yeah, that's why you
then
can't put it together because you are.
Yeah.
You're
Like, that's
interfering
something I'm
with
gonna
the-
have
Like going
at my
out to a
house.
game and doing some day drinking, throwing a milkshake into that equation
Right.
is a real risky choice.
Right. So like, but if I was at home,
Yeah.
then I'm like right before I go to bed,
Yeah.
let's rock this thing out.
Shout out Xbox King. Yes, the leg prisons are out. Yes, they are. So
Yep.
it's almost snowing outside.
It's nasty out there.
Oh
today.
my gosh! And no, I'm
So
not happy
gross.
about none of it. Absolutely not.
As far as the campfire milkshake might be the bright spot of the season. Can't wait to try it.
Might be.
Might be.
But they got a W.
Moving on. Austin in the comments said, "What's the best long-term outcome for the rest of the season? Is it making the playoffs and getting shredded by Boston, or is it falling to 10 and getting bounced by the Hawks in Atlanta?" I vote the second one. I think because if they somehow manage to beat the Hawks in the 9-10 game, and then beat the loser somehow of the Miami-Philly game, assuming that that's what stays at 7 and 8, and go to a pointless first-round series against Boston, AK will still be able to say, got back to the playoffs.
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think, yes, that gives him extra ammunition that he does not need or deserve. But do we really think that if they lose the 10th seed or lose the 9th seed, that he's not going to re-sign DeMar anyway? And when that happens, it's already locked in. So I just feel like it's already an inevitability that
He's going to do
the only thing that's going to happen that could make this thing any different is Zach getting traded, realistically. But realistically, that's not going to happen until at the very earliest, the trade deadline.
Correct.
I agree with you, and I'm not picturing it like, oh, hey, if the Bulls lose the 9-10 game to the Hawks, it'll spark, like it'll become some immediate catalyst for real change and maybe even organizational change, because I don't believe that, because I'm a Bulls fan and I know what I know. There's no evidence to support that the Bulls would be that rash in their decision-making. I agree. I think that they will still run this back even if they fall out of the play-in tournament, but it at the very least
It looks a lot worse for him.
Amps up the pressure because it makes them look bad. It makes them look bad, and we as fans will absolutely have the right to sit here on our program or hang out with y'all in the streets of Chicago or wherever and on social media and rail against their failure. And they won't be able to deny that failure. Because even though some of us might say a sweep against the Celtics in the first round, also a failure when you talk about the expectations that this fan base has for this organization, they can confidently say, well, we made the playoffs. They cannot say that if they don't make the playoffs, and the pressure builds. Doesn't mean that immediate change is coming, but the pressure builds.
And I think that speaks to the larger picture issue here, which is that to some people, making the playoffs is like the success. That's the ambition that they're trying to get to. And for other people, that is not. And that's just a fundamental difference of opinion, I think, between the front office and us or whoever else that just believes that just getting to the playoffs is not good enough.
Yeah.
But I think for the front office, it's absolutely good enough because they're selling out games. They're competitive. They're playing close, exciting games. DeMar is like doing his thing. They're making it to the postseason.
Yeah.
Like all the indicators that ownership would sign off on and say, this is what we want. It's ticket sales, playoff revenue, and being competitive to where your fans are showing up at games. And I think that they're successful in that. I think what looks really bad is if you have 3 out of 4 seasons on your resume of missing the playoffs and this thing clearly heading the wrong direction. But again, that's like a separate argument because I don't think they're operating that way.
Especially missing the playoffs 3 out of 4 years in a time frame where you mortgaged a lot of your future assets to be competitive and compete
1000%.
now.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's an absolute failure.
Yeah.
I think that is the absolute wrong way to look at it. But I just speaking my expectations or thoughts about how the front office and ownership will spin it, I don't think there's anything that can happen from here on out that would make them say this is a failure. We need to make some changes. I think they've already gotten to a baseline level of competence that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, acceptance. They've been there for a long time, and that's why I don't disagree with what you're saying about pressure, but I don't think it matters to them. I don't think they feel it. at all. Like, guys rarely going against because their ownership is telling them there is no pressure on them. They're fine.
They're not telling them anything.
Like, exactly my point. You know what I mean? Like, they're fine. Like, they're cool with the job that's being done. That pressure doesn't exist on them. Of course, I don't agree with the playoff assessment. I think going to the playoffs matters. I don't care if you get swept. I think it just matters, bro. Like, making the playoffs and going there matters for guys on your team, like certain players on your team. It matters for that growth of those players, man. This is why I wish Julian Phillips wasn't hurt, because it would have mattered for him. But those guys that matters for us. It's going to matter for Io. It's going to matter for Kobe. Like, those are the guys I'm looking at. I'm not looking at DeMar. I'm not looking at Vooch. I'm not looking at Caruso. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at them dudes. But I think it matters for those young guys of them actually going and getting that experience of getting their ass whooped in that first round. Like, that shit will always matter. Going to the playoffs will always matter. It will never not matter to me. So that's the thing. But everything else, I'm not in disagreement with what you guys are saying, because those are facts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're dealing with, and this is where we're at with this team right now, man. We're dealing with a front office who is just comfortable with being in the middle, comfortable with the mediocrity of things, and already has made up their mind. Or it doesn't matter how we feel about it. Their mind is already made up about what they want to do and who they want to do it with, man. So this is all I can do, is be for the team that we have here, the young guys that we have here, and be happy for their growth and be rooting for their growth.
I think it's fair to feel that way. Completely fair to feel that way. Alex in the comments said, I'm better with them making the play-in every year than finishing last in the conference. We kind of had somewhat of a similar conversation on our show on Sunday, I think, during our post-game show.
Oh, yeah.
Talking like, hey, what's worse? Is it being a team, a fan of a team that's bad on purpose, or a team that's stuck in mediocrity where the Bulls are now?
Right.
I think the part that's frustrating for Bulls fans is that we went through rebuild, bad on purpose years, and on the heels of that saw one little first round exit playoff appearance against Milwaukee for this team that looked like he was brimming with potential and then fell apart, and then have been watching the same falling apart car for 2 additional seasons, stuck in mediocrity. So we did those things back to back. We did tanking years that were bad and hard to watch through, especially for us Bulls diehards who literally still watched all 82. And then on the heels of that, only get so much of the fun competitive team part before now just being stuck in sometimes 4 under, sometimes 2, always 3. Because those are hard things to do back to back, and they screwed up the tanking part.
They did.
Winning meaningless games in March and April in seasons when they should be losing, and had the 7th pick umpteen years in a row. So they never got that, organizational changing, franchise changing talent.
See, and that only happened
any
one
of those
time.
draft classes.
And that only happened one time. Those other 2 times they were just ass, and still ended up with number 7. So it just happens like that for the Bulls, man. Like, that's just the luck of the Bulls, man, of being a Bulls fan.
And I think
7.
The way that they went about the rebuild, obviously they took some shortcuts. Obviously they had some bad luck, which is going to happen. But I just think overall they didn't do it right, and then they got anxious to kickstart things, and then you take another shortcut, and all of a sudden you're back to where you started. And so to me, there's, you can either be where the Bulls are, or you can do it right. But they just Para asked a great question in our Discord, seeing as Acme is not interested in a rebuild, is there any way you can talk yourself into an actual retool? That's what's going to have to happen, because they're not going to do a rebuild. The only way that would happen is if players just left. If Caruso leaves after next season, DeMar leaves after this season, that would force their hand a little bit. But
what also might force their hand to retool, if not fully rebuild, is the fact that keeping this court together this summer might trigger them into the luxury tax, and they're not going to pay that.
The monster.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are ways that they can get around that. I think they're going to have to make some hard decisions, and I think ultimately what that will be is attaching a pick to dump Zach, which sucks, but that's what they want to be. They don't want to be bad. They don't want to be bad on purpose.
But this isn't good.
Ugh. But that's how you end up.
But I hear you. That's how you end up in the middle.
Exactly where they are.
Shout out to our guy Mark K, who's popped into the comments saying, playing deep into April in games of consequence with a full building, A+ grades on the Dorfian scale. Sadly, he's not wrong about that. Shout out to Mark. Hope you and the fam are doing well. Speaking of which, also, Shout out to one of our other favorite Aussie Bulls fans, Troy, who in the CHGO Diehard Bulls Discord said, with Mark K no longer around, do you want another Aussie to replace him? What you got going on, Troy? Want to move to Chicago?
Luke Longley coming in?
Longley.
Love Luke.
Come on.
Oh, it was so nice to see him pop up around a few different times.
It was.
He was in, the Ring of Honor night stuff that went horribly, horribly wrong. But at least Luke Longley was there.
Where's the song, Brax?
What a sweetheart.
Well,
yeah, what's going? We're almost
This
out of
has,
time.
been this has been the story of the last day. There was an argument here in the chat, so Matt and Will, I'll let you guys answer this. But Colin
no song is what he's saying. All those words
just wanted to
song.
say, good to hear Braggs on the board. Also, blue cheese wins easily, but restaurant quality actual buttermilk ranch is great. Fuck Hidden Valley. So the question is, blue cheese or ranch?
With what?
No, he's just saying in general. Which one?
In general.
Are we talking like to dip chicken wings in? Are we talking just like as like a veggie tray? Like what are we talking about?
This is what we tried to tell him.
Well,
it depends on the food that you have for it.
I need more context.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, because the answer is both are delicious.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
When I order
That's
wings,
false.
if I'm at a place getting
That's
wings
false.
and they say blue cheese or ranch, I say bring me both. And
Yeah.
that's the correct answer.
That is the correct answer.
Chicken wing, blue cheese. Chicken wing,
No,
ranch.
The
More
noise
the
doesn't
merrier.
come after
They're both
blue
delicious.
cheese.
They're both delicious,
They're
Brax.
both delicious. And
Deal
if you
with
disagree with that take, you are wrong.
Wrong.
I'm right. Will, you're the smart one here. Answer the question.
I'm with Matt. Both. I like them both.
You like them both, Brax?
I like them both.
Sorry, Brax.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, where's the song?
Room for all.
Song, Brax. You
Lukewarm
promised
takes
people
with
a
Will.
song. You're going to lie to the people
Wait,
right to their face?
Was the song about
All right,
blue
so
cheese
this
and
is how
ranch?
this
No,
went. No,
it was about
The
when he actually named
So
the
I
show.
made the
okay.
thumbnail, and I always kind of do a movie or music reference if I can.
Wait, was that a reference to a Dave Matthews song?
That is correct.
Space
So I
between.
explained this to Dave. You know,
Oh, no, I
big
got it.
Dave, Dave Matthews Band. The space between.
Space between. Oh, Dave Matthews.
Waiting for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
The space between.
Come on.
Yes, that's it.
All right. I'll take it. I'll take it. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted, man. Thank you very much for that, Brax.
You know the only space between that has ever mattered when it comes to Dave Matthews and Chicago sports fans.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Matthew.
When his tour bus took a dump.
I knew where this was
a
going.
bunch of people
I knew where this was
Chicago
going.
River.
I knew exactly where
You
this
will
was
never
going.
live that down.
Ever. You will never live
Dude's
that
got
down.
some okay songs.
You're right.
He shat on the city of
Yes,
Chicago.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. We will never forget. Ever. Ever. He did that. It happened. My God.
It's cold. It's a cold, cruel world out there. Some people have fancy tour buses. Some people get shit on.
Dave Matthews is like, I do the shitting.
Shout out to everybody who threw us some questions in the super chat or in the CHGO Diehard Discord. Shout out to our guy Clem, who also had a fun question about if you could pick a different owner in the NBA. We don't have time to get to that. Maybe we could talk about that some other time, because I just got so FOMO-y jealous about even just reading that question. There's so many great options. Some fun NBA owners out there. I hate ours. We will be back tomorrow with another live show, 5 p.m. Central Time, to lead y'all and carry over until the Bulls actually play basketball again on Friday against the New York Knicks. Until then, go read that game recap from Bulls Hawks from Will that we spent a lot of time talking about today. The three-point defense, Billy's answers to it. If you haven't done it yet, great stuff in there. AllCHGO.com. Follow Will_Gottlieb. Big Dave is at BAW, BAWL Sports. I am Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out to our friend and our producer for the day, Greg Bragg.
Rags.
Boiler up.
Boiler up. Eat your blue cheese, eat your ranch.
That's right. Both of them. Double dose.
We all silly like the mayor.